Hello, good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, class. Mm, If any of you have any doubts, you can ask me by the time we wait for others.
Ma'am, yesterday I tried HTTPS by generating certificate and key. But ma'am, it generated me expired SSL like this.
Okay, were you able to check the issue of that?
Uh, no, ma'am, but the HTTPS was working, and I can
Mhm.
see the uh, certificate on my browser.
Okay.
But it was expired because my browser was warning me that it was not secured and
Yeah, it will want, but even then you can still type in like go ahead with unsafe, something like that, and
right,
then do, right?
right.
Yeah, that is expected because it's in local, right? So generally browsers do not accept self-signed certificates.
Okay, and then there was a line through from HTTPS, like a cross line HTTPS.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like showing that.
Yes. That strike, right?
Mhm.
That's expected, as I said, right? Like the certificate is self-signed one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, browsers behave in that way, but that's not the problem. If you are able to receive and send requests in HTTPS, if you are able to do that in the server, that's fine.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Did you try configuring secure true and then tried with HTTP?
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Yeah, then
It was
no cookies were set or not set?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one more thing. Now, I was using the HTTPS, so if I
Mm-hmm.
was using HTTP, the server was not reaching because I
Yeah.
was using HTTPS.
Okay, got it. Like you can still configure for your application to work in both way. You can also, that's not required, but then it's still possible. And then you can also configure, in the dev environment alone to be HTTP, and then in production to be HTTPS. Yeah, all
Okay.
those configurations can be done.
Okay, maybe like inside a classes.
I'll demonstrate that. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Let me add an MCQ. Yeah, added MCQ for Baba batch.
Ma'am, today's database are there.
No. We have authentication using tokens, right? Token based authentication. Once we are done with that, we have few more sessions in the backend itself, how to deploy the application. Yeah, we'll first learn about how to deploy plain Node.js applications, and then also using databases also we will see. But databases tomorrow, sorry, not tomorrow, we will touch next week. Added MCQ for Tata batch as well. Yeah, by the time you answer, I will also share you few profiles where you can learn, from them. They are posting good stuffs. There's this. Can every one of you see my screen? Is it shared? Let me share my screen.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So he posts amazing stuffs with respect to the front end. If you wanted to focus more on front end and new good patterns in JavaScript, he posts few content around that. Okay, you can follow him, not daily, but every now and then he posts stuffs about JavaScript. And then there's Danny, I believe it's Danny Thompson. Yeah, he is also more focused in front end scripts. He'll also post related to JavaScript. You can learn plenty of things. I just browse through LinkedIn and I get their content every now and then. It's very useful. Few of them you might not get it, but still browse through the content, and then you'll learn really. And then
Danny
there's,
Thompson, right? No?
yeah, Danny Thompson, and there's Oliver. Yeah,
I got that photo. Which one? Dan, huh?
yeah. He did post one today as well.
And can you share their profile actually? I'm not
Yes,
getting
yes,
it.
I'll do it. No,
And
he
your also.
shares. Yes, yes, sure. He shares snippets, code snippets like this, so you can refer and you can learn. Even if you know the concept already, right? If you just simply view, it will be a great revision for you. Okay, Oliver post, great stuffs. And there's also this guy called Yogesh Shavan. Yes, this. Yeah, he also posts amazing content and code snippets where you can refer. Yeah, so you can learn from the code itself. Every now and then it will be a very good revision for you. So yeah, I'll share these profiles with you every now and even I have few other as well. I'll share whenever I come to know about these profiles. Okay. Yeah. So everyone have a LinkedIn profile? Please do create one. You will get tons of opportunities from LinkedIn. Okay. So yeah, This is Yogesh profile, right? Let me quickly share those profiles. It will be helpful. Mm, yeah, I have shared the profile link. I get to learn a lot from them. So I'm just sharing. There are tons of others as well doing good job sharing content. If I come to know they are posting good contents, I'll definitely share every now and then. Okay, that's about LinkedIn. Okay, MCQ done. Okay. Any doubts on authentication using sessions? Let's go back to what we saw the other day. Mm. Okay, this was the one we saw about sessions. Any doubts on sessions, how it's working? What's the code? What did we do to achieve that in the backend code? Everyone clear with authentication? Did you see the did you check the CC? Were you able to implement? Yes? No? Okay. This is I have created for today's session. Yeah, so this entire folder is the express session one. Okay. I have the app.js. Any doubts with using it in the code, or did you try accessing the sessions? Did you try validating the same in your middleware? Everyone? Any doubts on this? No,
Yes,
yes.
yes, ma'am. About like when there are multiple users logged in, can you like
Yes.
quickly explain that part, like what we
Nothing,
had to?
we need not do anything. Okay, there's nothing to be done from our side. Okay, I just demonstrated you that your express session is handling that part for you. Okay, when I have multiple users, let's say I am logging in from Google Chrome with this user, and I'm logging in from, there's another user logging in from somewhere else. Okay, I created a session for both of these users. In real-time application, there is a possibility that tons of users, like thousands of users, access your application at the same time, right? So you need to maintain a session data for each of these users, right? So now demonstration purpose, I have taken two users, like, so I'm just checking if it is a user one or if it is a user two, and then I'm just creating a session for those two users alone. Okay, but I just demonstrated you that in the store, right, in the store, that there are actually two unique IDs for each of the users. Okay, and nothing else. Like the thing which I showed you was, even though there are two sessions present at that moment, your express session, okay, based on the cookie data whatever you received, it will be able to get the correct user ID. Okay, even though I have 2 sessions, it will actually map from the cookie data, right? In the cookie, you have the session ID. So it will go and get the correct data from the store, which matches the session ID and then gives you the correct data. Okay, you need not do anything even if you have multiple users. I can demonstrate that in code. It's nodemon /app.js. Okay, it's running. Let's go to Chrome. Localhost localhost will give me. Okay, let me log in with 123 from Chrome. Okay, so if you see here in the session store, I have only one session key, right? And the data is 123@gmail.com, right? So if I go and log in with the same user in Chrome itself, it will actually rewrite my cookie rather than creating another session. Okay, so that's the reason, right? If I log in one tab and go and open Google in another tab, it's still logged in with the same user only. So it will not work when you try it with the same users like this. That's why I demonstrate using a different browser. Okay, let me open this Microsoft Edge and let's try to access the site. Let's do it with ABC. Okay, another user, abcg.com, and password is ABC. Now I have logged in as a different user from different browsers. In the session store, if you can see here, this is the earlier session maintained for user 123, and this is the next session maintained for user ABC. Okay, so if I try to hit /users, if I try to hit /users, let me go and hit from this part. Okay, if I try to hit /users, go back to my Chrome. Can you see session ID being G5 like that? That is the same session ID for user 123, right? It's being printed from line 3 here. Okay, if you see here in line 2, the session object is exactly equal to the user whoever is accessing, like 123, right? So let me go and access from Chrome, right? Like not the Edge. From Edge browser, the user who is logged in is ABC, right? So now if I try to hit, scroll down, can you see the session data has user ABC's data? And the ID being the session ID of user ABC, right? So I just demonstrated that even if you have multiple sessions, your express session will give you only the data that is particularly stored for that particular session ID alone. You need not do any change. I just demonstrated you an example, that's all. Is that clear? Even if I have 5 to 6 users, a separate session will be created for each of the user in the store, right? This is the entire store. But at that particular, give me a minute. Hey, that was the call from Lalita and Manish. Like, there's an announcement. So, looks like you guys are submitting the CCs at the last minute. Okay, so the portal is not working at some point in time. So, they want you to upload as and when you finish your CC. Okay, so even if you face any difficulties with the portal, okay, just inform Lalita or Manish, whoever your teaching as coordinators are. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
ma'am. Got it.
So there is also an announcement being made, but they wanted to inform in the class as well. So upload your CCs as and when you complete. Don't wait till the last moment. Okay, and many of them are still not uploading. It seems there are few number of submissions being made. Okay, so make sure if you have any doubts, let me know. Or if you have any TA, is the session at 6:30 still happening? Doubt session? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, right? So make sure you clear your doubts. If you have, if you face any difficulties, let the instructors or let your mentors know about it. But try to finish your CC and upload. Okay? Yeah, that's about the announcement. Okay, let's come back. So, Amanjot, is this clear? Like,
Yes, ma'am. One,
okay.
just one more question. Like, if we close the browser window and open again, then it will be still be the same unique ID, or it will
Cookie
also
will
be?
be there, right? Close the browser itself. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Let's close the browser, create a new window. This time, let's directly go and hit users. My server is still running there, right? My browser still has that cookie data.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. If I stop the server, it will not be there. It will not be validated because you are having in-memory store here. But browser still has that cookie data, so it should ideally work. Okay. Let's come back to this one. Okay, let me quickly copy a picture. Okay, so let me enlarge this. So few observations from session-based authentication. So today we are going to see about how to do authentication based on tokens. Okay, this is JWT. It's not like, you'll have to understand, it's not like JWT token based authentication is better than authentication or an enhancement of session based authentication. No, both are entirely different processes of how authentication is being made. It is not like one solution for all applications. Okay, we will try to make some observations from the process which is happening in session based. We'll also do that for JWT and then compare on various use cases of which will be valid on what scenario, right? I'll also link an article, okay, based on what are the discussions you will have to make, whether to use JWT or whether to use sessions in today's class. But this is the process, right? So in this session, you have a browser, you make a login, okay, username and password. Is this picture everyone is able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So you're logging in with username and password. What your server is doing is ideally creating a session, okay, with session ID and then data, right? So and then it is storing your data, session ID and data here, and then returning the session ID by setting that session ID in the cookie to the browser. Okay, later on, when the second or third request, subsequent request comes in, okay, you have the session ID in the cookie and your server simply makes a call to this store, which we call it as store. Okay, and if it is present and if the data is present, it simply sends the response if it is validated, else it sends that it's not validated. This is the process, right? So let us try to dot down few points what is happening here. So okay, from this process, what can you infer? Meaning, Do you come to any conclusion of there is extra additional state that is being maintained in the server? Yes, additional space, right? Let's say thousands of members are, and let's take the scale of Google, right? If Google is being implementing something like this kind of thing, okay, there are multiple people who are accessing the Google site or being logged in, a session is being stored. So think of how huge this store will be, right? For every request, data has to be maintained, right? Definitely it's not going to be a memory storage, like they should have some DB to maintain this store, or cache, okay, to maintain this store. Okay, if thousands or 10,000s of users are accessing your application at the same time, 10,000 entries will be there in my store table, right? So what can you infer from this? Meaning, can you say that as the number of active users in your application increases, this will be hard to maintain, not scalable, basically? Do you all agree with me on that point?
Not clear, ma'am. Like because this session is stored in like client's machine, ma'am. So
No,
like
no. This is a very important point that we are missing. Is the session stored in client machine? Only the session ID is being stored.
okay,
Where you have the session data, where do you have the session data? Session ID only. With the session ID, you don't have any data associated with the session ID. It's just a unique string. Okay, the data, the user data or whatever data you are storing in the session is maintained in the server.
That can
Understood?
be stored as
You,
a file.
yes, it's maintained in the server. You can either store it in the DB or you can either store it in the cache. We have implemented a memory store, right? Like in memory storage, right? But it resides in the server. If you can see here, your server has this data. This data your server has. This ID only your client has. You can do nothing with this ID, right? There's no user data associated with that session ID which your client has. Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Is this point clear? Because this is going to be a major difference between your session based authentication and JW token based authentication. Okay, so this is practically like not scalable. Okay, meaning there is an overhead of maintaining the data in the server. Still you are hitting the DB, right? Still you are hitting the DB. There is a call being made. Okay. There is a call being made to the store, which will be a DB or a cache in your production system. No, once we learn about Mongo, I will demonstrate how you can have a MongoDB as a store. Okay. So we are still hitting the DB and querying for this particular cookie ID, right? You are checking this ID if it is there and then getting the data back, right? So this approach is not scalable. One thing. Okay, this is not advantages or disadvantages, nothing like that. Just observations of from the session based thing. Okay, can I not say that server has the entire control of editing the data, session data, or destroying the session? Server has the entire control because the entire store is in the server side, correct? Client has only session ID. It can do nothing with it. Like your server, let's say you have validated, you have a session, you have a session maintained. Okay, let's take an example of a banking website. Okay, sometimes your customer might call to your bank, bank customer care, and tell them like that the information, the account information, my information is being breached, or someone has access to my access to my website. So simply lock them out or log them out. So what, from the back end, what can I do? I can simply remove the session, right? I can destroy the session whenever I want, because server has the entire control. Is this point clear? Your server can do whatever it want with the store data, right? It can destroy the instance, right, whenever something happens, even if this session id is being breached, or someone has this data of this session id. What your server can do is, if your server comes to know that there is some suspicious activity from the account, it can simply destroy it. So ideally, what I'm trying to say is your server has more control over the session.
डब्बा पाठवला का? Hello, काकू डब्बा पाठवला?
Swapnil, I'm not able to get you. Okay, probably that's my mistake. Okay. Second one would be server has more control over the session. Okay, it can destroy, it can create, it can modify whatever you want, right? Like it wants, like whenever any suspicious activity comes in, it can simply destroy the instance and then invalidate, log that user out. Okay. Another thing is the session id dependent on cookies, right? Dependent on cookies. Yeah, that would be clear, I believe. Like you need the cookie, you send the session id in the cookie, and you get the data from the cookie only. Okay, so these are certain observations from how your session based authentication is working. Okay, so let's learn about what token based authentication is. Token based authentication. So what is happening is, so let's say this is the client. Okay, so you have the client machine here, or your browser. What we are going to do is, from the server, okay, from my server, when the user is trying to log in, okay, login request slash login request, the user gives username and password, right? So you go and hit the DB for the first time. You definitely need to check the username and password. Okay, validate if it is valid, and then you will generate a token. Okay, in this process, what is happening is, second process, this is first one, hit the DB, validate if the user is correct. Second is generate a token. I'll tell you how this token looks and what is and all, right? Generate a token. Okay, I'll tell you what token is. Token is something, a random string. Okay, for now just assume it's a random string. Okay, this token, random whatever string you wanted to use, okay, random string will contain, will contain the session data, or that, let's not use the same word. Why is Control Z not working? Okay, will contain not session data, but whatever data you are storing here, right? what we are doing is in token based authentication, instead of creating a store where the unique ID and the session data resides, what we are going to do is put the data, okay, put all the data whatever you wanted to string, inside the token itself. Okay, inside this token itself you add the data. Okay, inside the token itself you encode the data in the token itself, and then send that token to your uh, in the response. Okay, in the response you will have token, this generated token. Okay, you can send it anyhow, you can send it as a response, you can you can use a cookie, it's not mandatory. Okay, but you are generating a token, okay, which is a random string, which is encoded with the data you wanted to store in the DB. Okay, that is in session based, whatever data you stored in this place, right, the user ID or username, email, all the data which we were maintaining in the session, what I'm doing is I'm taking that data, okay, encoding it using an algorithm and all, and then generating a random string like this, okay, which when I decode I will get the data back. Okay, I am encoding the data, okay, using certain algorithms, okay, and then creating a token kind of a thing which will look like a random string. Okay, if I try to decode, I have encoded here, right, encode here. If I take this string and decode it, okay, I will get the data back. Okay, so I will send this token as a response to my client. Later, this is R1. Okay. Later, okay, later when my client is making request R2, okay, it will send the token along with me. Okay, sorry, along with the request. Okay, it will send the token which we generated, right? It will send the token from in the request R2. You can use, this token can be sent in header, okay, or cookies, or as a query, okay, or in body, request dot body. I don't care where it is sent. It entirely depends on the client and the server how they wanted to receive it. Okay, there is no restriction that I have to use only a particular thing to send this token. Okay, whereas in session based you need to rely on cookie only, you need to set in cookie and get the data from cookie, but here you can send this token anyhow. Okay, now since this token, as I told, if I decode I can get the data. Now when in the second request, now when the server receives this request, okay, it will take the token from the request, okay, do this, take the token and then decode it and then get the session data. Okay, so what is the primary difference is, instead of storing the session data in the server and creating a unique ID, which is a random unique ID, it doesn't contain any data. Okay, any data about the user and all, it doesn't contain, it's just a random unique string, a session ID. Okay, so instead of storing the session data in the backend in the DB, what we are going to do is, okay, we are going to take that data, okay, apply some node encoding algorithm, okay, and put that data inside the token itself, add the data whatever I need to maintain in the session inside the token itself, and then send it back. Okay, later when I receive the request R2, I simply decode the data and decode the token, sorry, decode the token and then get the data whatever I want. By this, what did we achieve? Did we eliminate the use of storing session data in the server? Yes, this problem is solved. So your JWT is much more scalable. right? There is no DB call for every request. It is just decoding. Decoding is much faster. When I know the algorithm, decoding is much faster than a DB call hit, than making a call to a DB. Decoding a token is much faster. It's just a process in the server rather than hitting the DB and all. Okay, so this token is the only thing which we are going to share it with the client. Okay, later in the second or third request, you will receive the token anywhere. It might be in the header, you can store it in the cookies as a query param also, you can add it as a body or request body also, you can add it. So it depends on the design decisions of how your client is going to interact with your server. Based on that, you get this token from the request. Okay, from the request, decode it and get the session data instead of getting the session data from database, right? Like from my session store. Is the process clear? Okay, I will briefly I'll explain more on this token, how it is generated, what are the parts of the token and all. But clear about the workflow, what is the main difference here between these two? Understood? Any doubts with the entire flow of how token based authentication is working? Do anyone want me to repeat?
Clear, ma'am.
Clear? Okay, this token might be like, how can I, you might think like, how will I take that data, encode it, and then put it in the token itself? But we will learn about how to generate a token and all in some time. Okay, before that, let's write down few observations from token based authentication, right? So since there is no session data, like since there is no DB where or any store where you are maintaining the session in the server, okay, even there are no 10,000 users accessing your application at a particular moment in time, you don't have the need to store the session. So this call, this DB call itself is not being made. Only the decoding is made, which is just a process in the background. It's not going to take much time. Okay, so this will be much more scalable. You don't need to deal with databases or cache here, right? Much more scalable. Do you agree with me on that? No additional space. So even there are 10,000 or 20,000 people accessing my application at a particular point in time, I don't need to store any session in the database. Okay, I simply have the data whichever I needed, the session data, right? Whatever I need, I have it in the token itself. Okay, simply when I get the token from the client, I can decode it and get the data whatever I want. It is present in the token itself. Okay, is the first point clear? It is much more scalable, right? And again, second point, if you see here, server has more control over the session. Since here that is not the case, right? Since you generated the token, set an expiry date to the token, and you have already sent the token to the client late after R1, right? After the R1 request is done, okay, done executing, and the response is being sent to the client, the server has no access to the token generated, no access to the token, right? Do you agree with me on this? After generating a token, which is a random string, after sending it to the client, your server has no access to the token. So it can simply not invalidate your session. Okay. Similar to how did we destroy, right? Yesterday, I showed you how to destroy a session when we were logging out. Okay. Here you cannot do that because server do not have access to the generated token after the response is done. Right, sent to after the response is sent to the client, your server has no access to the token which is being generated, so it cannot invalidate, right? So cannot invalidate a token before expiry. Or let's say you set the expiry date to be 1 day. Before 1 day you don't have access to this token, so you cannot invalidate that token. So you can ask me, then how will I log out from my application? That's a logical question, right? Which comes,
Yes, ma'am.
if I am not able to invalidate a token before expiry, so how will the user log out, right? So there are multiple ways to achieve it. Okay, I'll tell you workaround, right? It's not a direct way of invalidating. That's why I have written you cannot invalidate a token before expiry. You cannot directly do that. You can do it as a workaround in your server. Okay, we will discuss more on how to invalidate and all. Okay, there are ways, but still you cannot do it directly. You cannot invalidate a token before it's expired. Okay, so third point, you are not dependent on cookies alone. I don't know why this board is not working. Okay, not dependent on cookies alone, right? You can send this token in as a query param also. Even though it's not an advised, suggested solution, you can still send them. Okay, you can send the token in header, okay, as a separate param, or cookies or body. Anyway, you are not entirely dependent on cookies alone. Okay, that is one thing. And the fourth thing is, in session in session the session ID, right, SID does not contain any user related data. It do not contain, just a random, session ID is just a random string. Okay, it don't have any data, or all the data with respect to the user is being stored in the backend in your store. Okay, this session ID is just a unique. But if you take this JWT token based authentication, okay, your token, right, your token data is being added, right? The data, I am encoding the data in the token itself. Okay, token contains user related data. Yes, if the hacker comes to know this token, okay, even then, there is something, a part of a token is called signature. Okay, so only when the hacker comes to know about your secret key, he will be able to completely get the, completely access your application. But before that, he or she can access only the user related data. Okay, so that is the reason when you are encoding, do not store passwords and all and encode it in a token. You should not do passwords. User related data can be any email ID or any other user related data, common data, which you need to maintain in the token. Okay, you just avoid the possible, even just say no, hackers come to know about this token and they are able to decode and get the data. Even if they are able to decode and get the data, they should not get the password and all. You should not store passwords or very sensitive information and encode it along with the token. But you can say that the token actually contains user related data, okay, which is a kind of exposing our data to the users, but just making sure that it is not a very sensitive data. Okay, whereas here your session ID, even if they try to encode, decode, whatever they do, they don't get the data and all. My data is still in the server only. There are few other points as well, but let's learn about this generate token and then come back. Is the process of how token based authentication is clear? What are the few observations which I have made from the workflow? Is that clear? Can we go to how to generate a token, how a token actually looks? What are the parts of a token? Everyone, the only few of you are interacting in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
chat. Others, Subhash, okay. Abhishek, Akhilesh, Amanjot, Dheeraj, Ibrar, Lavanya, Adil, Pradeep, Sapna. Clear? Do any one of you want me to repeat anything which I told here? Understood the difference between these two? Very important concept, okay, which is just there in any application you create. This is going to be the first thing you will do. Okay, can we go and look into how a token looks like? Okay, there is a site called jwt.io. JWT just stands for JSON Web Tokens. Okay, it's just JSON Web Tokens. Theory part clear, right? Let's go. This is how a token will look like. Okay, this entire part. Okay, this is the token which you will send to the client, and you will send the, you will try to encode the data and then send this. When you are receiving this token, you will receive this token and then you will try to decode it. Okay, so there are basically three parts in my token, in my JSON Web Token. Okay, can you see red part dot? That is one. The violet one, the next dot, that is the second part, and the blue one is the third part. Okay, you have three parts. Okay, you have header, payload, and verify signature. These are the three parts which I was talking about. Okay, this red one is the header part. This is not similar to the header in HTTP and all. There's no relation between them. Okay, they have taken some inspiration, the naming inspiration from the HTTP protocol and nothing else. Okay, so header in JWT is different. Okay, there are three parts: header, payload, verify signature, and these are the three things. The first one is the encoded data of your header. Okay, the second one is the encoded data of your payload. Okay, the third one is the encoded data of your signature. Okay, so let's see each one. Okay, in the header you basically give the algorithm. I told you in the explanation theory part, I take this data, whatever I wanted to store, I use some algorithms to encode it. Did I not tell you that? Okay, so there are various algorithms you can do. So these are all, if you have learned, if there are any CS based students, have you learned few of the algorithms in cryptography subject? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. Okay, it's an optional subject in my curriculum, so my college chose that one. Okay, so few of the algorithms are common, but these are the various algorithms which you can use, okay, to encode the data, right? This is the data. You can have anything you want, right? Like, let's say you need to have username, user ID, which is 123 at gmail.com. Okay, any data you store here. Okay, this is the data which you are actually storing it in the token. This data, okay, is encoded using the algorithm which you have specified. Why am I not scroll? Okay, okay, is that clear? This is the algorithm which we are going to use to encode the data. If I change this algorithm, obviously the encoded text is going to vary because a different algorithm is being used. Okay, each of the algorithm itself is a separate research papers. Okay, yeah, if you have interest you can explore them, but not necessary from a web development point of view. Okay, yeah, so this is the algorithm which I am going to use to encode my data. Okay, so this is the data I wanted to store in my token, user related data, any data, name, user, email ID, or any whatever data which we were storing in the session, right? In the session, whatever data you want to encode them in the token, you simply put that in the payload as a data. Okay, that encoded data, right? That encoded value is this violet part. Okay, understood two things? Okay, third thing is the signature. Okay, why do we need signature? I am already encoding, right? Like I have an algorithm and I am encoding the data. Okay, let us assume. Okay, let's assume that, you know, I have a name. Okay, ABC. Let's say this is the data, payload data. Okay, and I am encoding it using HS512 algo. Okay, using HS512, I get some random string. Okay, let's say this is the token without signature. This is the token being generated from the server, and you are sending this back to the client. Okay, when I know only certain algorithms are used. Okay, let's say the hacker comes to know about the algorithm. Okay, and he can simply encode some other data, right? He can simply use user XYZ, right? Use the same algorithm which you are using. Okay, and then create the random string and then send it to you, right? Send it to my server. But you haven't created this random string, right? 1 2 3 XYZ, you haven't created, whereas this random string you created, right? So how will your server differentiate from the tokens the server created and the tokens which some hackers created using the same algorithm? Okay, so both are going to be ideally correct, right? Same algorithm, if you try to encode this one, you will get the same token which your server is going to generate it for you. If you use the same algorithm, it's going to be, whether you generate or your server generates, is going to be the same one. Everyone agree with me on that?
But ma'am, the secret will be not there. No?
We haven't used still now secret, right? That's why I am explaining, like the
Okay,
third
okay.
part, right? The
Okay.
signature part. Okay, so far I don't have any secret key or any signatures being signed for your server to identify the tokens it generated, okay, from the tokens someone else generated using the same algorithm. Okay, your server needs to differentiate between this token and the second token which your hacker generated and all. Okay, so that is where your third part comes. It's basically creating a token dot and signing it. Okay, how do I sign it electronically? Like based on a secret key, right? You basically, what we do is use the secret key. Okay, sign or encode the data which I have, the previous token, right? The other data and the algorithm data related and all, completely encode it using the secret key and then send it to the server. Okay, so later when I receive some random generated string from a hacker, something similar to this kind, only your server knows the secret key, right? Only your server has signed it with a secret key, right? Even though your hacker uses the same algorithm and try to, generate a token, he or she doesn't know the secret key. So he or she will not be able to generate a token similar to the one your server will generate. So obviously, since your server has the secret key, it will be able to decode it and then check if it is the same token that the server already generated or the token that you received from the hackers. It will be able to differentiate it using this secret key. Okay, and that's the reason we are coming to the third part, that is the signature part. Is the necessity of signature clear?
Yes,
Any doubts on this? Is the reason for the signature clear, even though we have no algorithm and all? Signature part is very important. Okay, so this signature is basically converting your header, right? The header part. Okay, base 64 URL encode. Did we not learn the same name anyway somewhere? It's just converting into a random string. Okay, base 64 URL encode. We also learned about how to do it when we are uploading files, right? Your Cloudinary was also accepting base 64 string, right? Similar to that, your JSON web token, okay, how it generates the third part, that is the signature part, is it will just encode it, your header dot, your payload dot, and the third part is going to be your secret. Okay, as of now they have your secret is no your 256-bit secret. So as and when the first two parts will be similar, right? As and when I change this token, can you see the third part being changed? Based on the secret, your signature part will change. Okay, so these are the three parts that your JSON web tokens will contain. So far clear? Can we go and implement it in our application? Any doubts with how your tokens are working, how the data is being encrypted? I made some change here, right? Let me copy this token. Okay, let me go and show you. Let's say, let us not copy this. Let's say secret key is data. Okay, data, I have some changes being made here, and let's say the name is also as data. Okay, this is the encoder. Let's say these are the data I have, and this is the encoded token. Let me copy this. Okay, let me reload. Okay, all the data is gone, right? It is the same sample data which they have. Okay, now let me paste the same code which I had earlier. Okay, now if you see here, if I get the token, right? If I get the token, I'm able to decode what the algorithm is, right? I'm able to decode what the data is, right? Data is also decoded. That's the reason I told you, right? If they come to know about the algorithm and the algorithm in which it is being encoded, they'll be able to trace what the data is. So always make sure that you don't put sensitive information inside the token and then encode it. It is still possible to decode when you know the algorithm. Okay, but if you go down, can you see invalid signature? Because this website don't know my secret. Okay, it is having some invalid secret. So can you see it is an invalid signature? So the same, your server will be able to do it. So if it's an invalid signature, simply it will reject the request. Can you understand the need why I told you not to store sensitive information? Even though I don't have the secret, right? I didn't give the secret. Tata is the secret, and I didn't give that secret to this website. But still, it is able to retrieve the data because of the algorithm, right? There are only certain algorithms that are used. Okay, so it will try to check based on all algorithm, and it will still retrieve the data. Okay, but your signature is invalid, so your server will simply reject this kind of a token. Let me go back and give the signature. Can you see signature verified now? Can you see signature verified now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So yeah, so only when you give the secret, you will be able to verify the signature as well and also get the data.
Ma'am, it is able to like decode the all the payload and all the information.
Yes,
Right.
yes, that's
So
the user related data, right? So that
right.
there is some security concern here. Yeah.
So like why it's not able to like decode the verify signature? Like the same method we are using, like, and it is able to decode all the things. Like why not?
Yes, I don't know. This third part will change as and when I change my secret, right? So if I don't give the secret, right, it will be invalid, right? Like this part will not match, right? It will not able to verify. It will not be able to decode this secret, because only with the secret it has encoded, it has got this data. If I don't have the secret, this third part, if you can see here, first part is header, okay, second part is a payload, third part you need to give the secret, then only you can get this random string. Okay, if you simply change one random string to anything, right, like capital to small j, it will say invalid secret because it doesn't have the secret key. Okay, let me go back and copy and paste the same thing. If you see here, it's invalid signature. It will still be not be able to decode the third part. Okay, your first part is correct, your second part it is able to decode and get it, but your third part, your verify signature method cannot do, because it don't have the secret with it. Okay, and that's the reason it's giving me invalid signature. So once it gets the signature secret, it's being changed, paste, as and when I change here, that is also changing, so it's changing to valid signature. Okay, so once when I give the secret, okay, it will be able to decode the third part. Okay, so similar process your server will also do. Okay, it will check the third part with the secret it has already. Okay, only if that matches, only if the secret part matches, it will be able to serve the request your client is asking for, else it will simply reject because the signature part is not matching. Make sense?
Yeah, but ma'am, like the secret is also embedded in this token, right? So like if
No,
it
no,
is
secret is not embedded in the token. Okay, using the secret data is only embedded in the token. Okay, using the secret, okay, they are mapping an algorithm and then they are generating this. Okay, if you try to decode, you will not get the secret. It's not using this algorithm and all. Okay, similar to how we did session, right? Session yesterday, your session by concept, it is not the same. Okay, you will simply send the session id, but your express server was doing something one step ahead. What was it doing? It was simply encoding your secret unique id together with the secret which you gave, right? Your session id is appended together with some random string with help of your secret key, right? So it doesn't mean that your session ID contains the secret key. Okay, it uses the secret key and maps it to an algorithm to generate that random string, but the data, the secret key is not stored. It is just similar to the algorithm, right? There is some process in the algorithm, right? Similar to that, it is using this secret data to actually come up with this string, and it doesn't mean that this secret data is present in the string. No. Okay,
clear, ma'am?
it is just using this string to create a hash, you can say. Okay, it doesn't mean that the secret itself is encoded in the hash.
Okay.
Okay, but your payload data, it actually contains the data which is encoded using this algorithm. That's why we have three different parts to differentiate each one of them. Okay. Any other doubts on these three parts? What each one of them are? Okay. Implementation is going to be fairly very simple. Let's go back to our project. Let's stop this. Any doubts before proceeding with the implementation? Let me give you an MCQ. By the time, if you have any doubts, let me know. Okay, and one other thing, someone asked me yesterday, why don't we use get method for login, logout, and all, right? Okay, I have got few clarifications on that, but not entirely. Okay, still some people are suggesting to use delete as well, because what we are ideally doing is to removing a session from your DB, right? Removing an entry from my session store.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So that's basically a delete, that's considered to be a delete operation, and they are suggesting to use a delete method instead of post. But there is one good thing about get. Earlier, no, back to 2010 and all, get was the standard HTTP method which is being used. But later, what happened is there is something that is dealing with the browsers, right? So modern browsers like Chrome or Edge in recent days, what it is internally doing is, no, since get request is normally considered, all get requests should not change any resource, right? It should only get the value from your database. There should not be any change in the data if you are using a get call, right? That is the general meaning of using a HTTP verb as get. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So what your modern browsers are implementing is, okay, so before even calling the APIs or any files, before you are requesting any files, there is a process of prefetching, okay, data, prefetching the data from the server in order to reduce the initial load time. Okay, whenever I try to load any site, okay, it will take some initial thing, right? So modern browsers are implementing a pattern called prefetching. So before even you are requesting for it, it will prefetch certain resources that it knows that it will be required for sure. For example, the HTML file or the JS file. Okay, the modern browsers are using this process of prefetching the resources from the server. Okay, so if you have login or logout as a get request, okay, what there is a possibility, there is a, not sure, but no, still there is a possibility for your browser to go and prefetch that as well, right? Since it is a get request, there is a possibility for your browser to consider that it is a get request, so why not I do the prefetch. So what will happen if your browser tries to prefetch your logout or login, right? So it will try to log you out from the application, okay, since your browser has requested. So this is just a theoretical part which I come to know. So they have moved away from using the get method, but still few people suggest to use post, and few go with delete. Ideally, based on the conversation, what I think of is the delete is the more appropriate one, right? So we are deleting an entry in the session, so delete makes much more sense than post. But you can use either, based on the implementation of the server application, either post or delete will work. Okay, but for get alone, get will also work. Okay, but in modern browsers there is this concept of prefetching resources. Okay, so if suppose my browser calls that get API, which it thinks that it is not going to change anything. Okay, so that is the reason get is not suggested. But even then, no, earlier Stack Overflow and all were using HTTP method as get only for logging out and all, but now it has been changed, it seems. But yeah, earlier people were using, and now the modern browsers have come to implement these prefetching concept and all, and then later they have changed it to either post or delete. Okay, still not clear on which to use or exact thing to use and all, based on the thing whatever we are doing. Ideally in the session based authentication system, what we are doing is to delete a entry in the database, like in the store, in the session store. I am deleting a session, right? So delete method also makes more sense, but post or delete, anything will work.
Okay, and ma'am, one more thing.
Yeah.
Like suppose I have a button to log out, okay,
Okay.
and I have in href tag I have given the route of the like local host for
Okay.
so
Mhm.
automatically by default it is a get route, right?
Yes.
That method. So like how can we change it to like post or delete?
Href is a link which you need to do. Are you using the anchor tag?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Anchor tag is to basically navigate you from one application to another. So this is how, you know, you should make it as a button, even though if it is a link, make it as a button and then make it as a API call. Okay, anchor tag is a tag which is used to navigate between sites, right? To route you to based on different things. So having an anchor tag and having a method doesn't make sense. Okay, don't use anchor tag in the first place itself is what I would suggest. Okay,
Okay.
anchor tags are not used to perform any action. Okay, if it is an action, use button. Okay, and that's, I don't think your anchor tag still supports a method.
No, because like
It will not support. Yeah.
the logout we was talking about. So that there I created a UI and
Mm-hmm.
I used anchor tag for logout for with get method. So
Okay. Okay. So, but still, you can still achieve it, right? Like you have a click handler and then make a call, fetch call from the JavaScript, that you can do. But by default, you cannot change, is what I believe. You can use form, but in the tag itself, you cannot change.
okay.
Yeah, because anchor tags are not designed for that. It's just to navigate the users. Okay, you can still have a click handler and then write your own JS, make a fetch call. That is still possible. Okay, but that's not the way to do it, right? Like anchor tags are not should not be used to perform any actions. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, added MCQ for Tata. Yeah, added MCQ for Baba batch as well. Okay. So if you see here, let's do the implementation part. Okay. So I have just created a project. Okay. Uh, this contains a sample data of, I think we are using let's delete this, not necessary. Okay, we have a JSON file with mock post data and a JS file, which we are just having a login route, post login. Okay, and then a get request simply to validate. Okay, so if I go back, try to run this cd 13 nodemon./app.js. Okay, let's go to Postman. Okay, takes too much of time to load a login page. Okay, so I have it as a post. Okay, let's send it as a raw data only. First one is going to be username, some value. Okay, and then comma, password. Say it's 123. Okay, so this is the thing I'm going to send. If I send, okay, not connected, 80 81, not connected. Okay, it's listening in 80 80. Let me change this one. Okay, invalid user, right? So that's the reason, because I have here, right? I'm checking the dummy database, and then I'm sending, else it is sending a invalid username and password, right? If it is valid, let me send a message that it's successfully logged in. Now if I go back and hit, okay, I should change this one. What's the username? 123. Now the username is correct, so this message I have got it. Okay, nothing complex. Okay, simple message, no session, express session and all, no validation. So even if I have not logged in, I should be able to access posts, right? So slash post, which is a get request, and then if I try to hit, okay, I get all the data of my JSON. Is that clear? Like, any doubts on what we have implemented so far? Nothing, all things you know. Okay, just a get call and a login call. Okay, any doubts on this part? It's just a JSON file. Any doubts on this part? Okay, two routes. Clear, right? Can we proceed with JSON web tokens? Okay, cool. So let's go back to our npm. Let us search, what I get the old one, not npm. Okay, so there is a package called JSON web tokens. Okay, simply install that. You cannot do that tedious process of generating the token and verifying and all. Okay, let us not reinvent the wheel. Let us copy this and then install it in our npm, not this one, web token. Okay, so after installing any package, what do we do? just import them. So let me import it as a JWT. Require, what is the name? JSON web token, right? Okay. Okay. I have my package is installed. Okay. Let's go back. So two process here. One is to generate the token. Okay. The second is to verify the incoming token, right? So first let's generate and then let's do the verification second part. Okay. So if in order to generate a token, scroll down. Yeah. Can you see here? JW.sign. So this is the payload. Okay, payload meaning this is the data, the data which you wanted to encode it in the token itself, right? The username, user ID and all. You give that as an object. Okay, and you give the secret key. The second parameter is the secret key. Okay, these are certain options which you can give in order to change the algorithm, in order to set the maximum age and all that you can do as a third optional params. Okay, but the first two is mandatory. The first one is the payload. The second one is the secret key. Okay, so where do I need to generate a token and send? After the user is validated, right? So after the user is validated, I need to generate a token. So what I can do is const token, which is equal to JWT dot, what is the method we saw? Can you see? Sign, decode, verify. Okay, use this sign method. Okay, the first is going to be the user data. Let us say another variable which is a payload. Let's say I need to store few details. Let's say I wanted to store username. Okay, the username, whatever the user gave. Okay, and also what do I need to store? Let's have the same thing, is logged in, which is true. Okay, so let's assume this is the payload data which I wanted to send it back, encode it together with the JSON token and then send it back. So this is the payload. So the first parameter is going to be your payload, right? Payload data. The second is going to be the secret. Okay, let us have it. As I said, all these secret keys and all the unique keys, authentication keys, API keys and all will go into a file called .env. Okay, we have a session for that next week, early next week. We will see how to configure all those in a separate file and then use it. But for now, let's have it in our inside our file itself. Okay, let's say some random string, or okay, let's say it's a random secret. Okay, I am going to use this secret to encode my payload data, to sign it. Okay, so this is the token that will be generated. Okay, can we try to print and see what's the token? Dot log token. I haven't sent it again. Okay, this is just the signing part. Go back. Let me try to log in again. This is post, right? So yeah, slash login post. Oh, it's not running. Oh, I have stopped the server. Okay. No. Okay, I didn't send the token, but let's go back to our console. Can you see the token here? Let me copy and go back to my this thing, then paste it. Okay, can you see the data whichever I sent? This is just the time, right? A token, your payload, by default it will also get the time. Okay, issued at time. That time whenever the token was generated, that will by default be added in your token. So in your token payload, can you see it's being able to decode it using this algorithm? But still, if you see, it's invalid signature, right? Because Tata is not the signature which I used, right? Understood how it's being able to, but still it's invalid because secret is not same. Okay, your server will
No,
be.
ma'am. Ma'am, can you repeat from the coding part? Actually, I didn't get.
Okay, nothing we have done in the coding. Okay, I have imported the JSON web token. Okay, I need to generate the token. Okay, to generate the token, I need to get the data, whatever you need to add it in the token. Whatever data you wanted to encode it along with the token, you will have it in a variable called payload. You can simply copy and paste it here also, no problem. Okay, payload. And the second param is going to be the secret, whichever I told you that you need to have a secret to sign your token. Okay, so that is the second parameter which I have passed here. Okay, this is a random string. Okay, which I am using it as a secret for my applications. Only my server knows. So I just printed. Okay, and then I copy pasted this generated token. I just went to this JSON web token site and just showing you that even without, even without the secret key, based on few different algorithms, your clients, if they come to know about the token, if they come to know about this particular token, they will be still be able to get the data out of it based on the algorithm and all. It's still possible. Yes, it's a tedious process behind, but still possible to get the data. If you can see here, I got the data. Username 123 is logged true, right? So this is the default value that your JSON web token library is adding along with your payload. That is the time in which the token was generated. If you can see here, it's around 22:30 GMT, 3 minutes ago. Okay, it's the time that is added by default. So if I give this token, okay, to my JSON web JWT site, it is still able to decode the information, right? It's able to see the payload data. But that is the reason I told you not to store any sensitive data in the payload. Okay, there is a possibility for your hackers to get that payload data. But how will your server differentiate the tokens it generated and the tokens someone else generated using the algorithm? How will your server differentiate? And that is where your secret comes into picture. Okay, you need to know the secret in order to verify the signature. That is, in order to verify the third part. Okay, you cannot use this algo and all, okay, to verify the signature. You need to know the secret to verify it. So since this site doesn't know my secret, which is a random string which I have in my application, this site doesn't know my secret, so it's giving me invalid signature. The same your server will be able to do. If any part of this thing, if anything gets changed, your signature will not be verified. Your server will be able to check that because it has the secret key. Understood? Yes, no?
Understood, ma'am.
Okay, so this is how we generate the token. As I said, you can simply send that generated token to your client. You people generally name it as access token. Let's give the same name. Okay, access token, which will be the token generator. Okay, now if I go back, okay, call again. Can you see the access token? So this is how you will send the token back to your client. Is the token generation part clear? Simple thing. Just one line. Your token is done with the secret. Okay. There are third additional parameters as well. So similar to how you set some expiry age, right? For your session ID, for your cookies to expire, you set some data. Similarly, you can also do it using the options. Okay. By default, I think, let me go back. By default, it has 1 day, I believe, but I'm still not sure. Okay, expires in, let's check that value. What's the default one? No default values for these claims also provided. Okay, okay. There is no default value. It means that this token is valid, for a lifetime, right? It has no expiry date. So you don't want your tokens to be in that way, because once you send the token to your client, you don't have any access to it. Does that make sense? Once you send the token to client, you don't know what the token is. Your server will not have access to the token which you sent it back to your client. So before even sending it, set the expiry date. Expires in, here you can give values like 1 day, one, like that and all. Let's say express in. Can you see here example? It can either take a string or seconds. If I know, if you can give like 1 hour, 10 hours, 24 hours, 7 days, like this and all you can give. Okay, let's say I wanted to give 1 day, so I do 1D. Okay, you want to change the algorithm, put the comma and then add algorithm. These are the different algorithms. If you wanted to change the algo, you can do it. Okay, is the options part clear? Is the signing part clear? Getting and sending it back to the response. Can you go to the second one, everyone? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so basically I need to create okay, for let's assume that a middleware which I need to create. Like yesterday we created a middleware in a separate file, auth user. Let's create a middleware to verify user or authenticate user, any name whatever you wanted to. User, it's a middleware, request, response. Just to explain it, I'm putting it in the same file. All these should go into your middleware folders. Okay, and next. Okay, so now you need to verify this token. So add this middleware should be used to for this call. So add that middleware here. Okay, not an arrow function but a normal function. Okay, we are going to verify the token. Now as I said earlier, where you add the token in the request depends entirely on how you want your client to do. If you want your client to send it in the header, you will have a readme file saying I am expecting the token in the header. Please send the token in the header, else I will not validate your response. Okay, if you are going to decide that you need the token from the body, you need to specify that. It's based on the design decisions from the server and how your client should interact with your server. Okay, I generally, okay, people prefer it to store it in the header itself. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to our post calls. Okay, it's a get call. Can you see header part here? Okay, yeah, these are some default headers which will get added. Okay, generally there is a key called authorization, and here is where you add the token in the header part. Okay, this is not a hard rule that you will have to follow. As I said, it depends on how you want the client to interact with the server. Okay, if you are expecting your client to add it in the header, this is how you do. You can also give that in the body, no problem at all. Your get is not going to have the body. Let me remove that. But this is where you are going to give the authorization. Okay, let's go back to our login, get the access token here from this part, and then in the post request I'm going to add it in the header. Okay, and then now I am going to send it. So ideally what your server should do is get this value from the header. Okay, and then verify it. This is the access token, right? This is the token generated. I need to verify this. So that is what we are going to do. Okay, I am expecting the value to be in header. So how do I get the values from header? Const token, which is equal to request.headers. Why am I okay? Probably if I have it only in this way, I will get it. Okay, request.headers will have all these values, right? all these values will be there in request.headers. So what is the key? Authorization. So how will I access key from object?
Dot.
You can use
Authorization.
dot, or you can use bracket operator, anything. Okay. So let me have it as a dot operator only. Dot authorization. Okay. You are expecting token to be present here. So if token is not present, okay, it's not present, you simply send response.json, send an object message that it's token not present. What's the error code? Can someone say what's the error code? Dot status 401, I believe. Invalid data 401 or 403. Give me a minute. It's
403.
403 for not present, is it?
Four,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, probably. Make sure. I think 403. Yeah. If it's invalid, it's 401, right? Yeah. So this is when the token is not even present. So after this also you should return it, either add return statement here or add a return statement after this. Okay. You are ending the execution. Okay. Sending the response. So if the token is present, you need to verify it, right? You need to verify if the token is right. So go back to our documentation. Signing is done. Expiration part and all is done. Let us go. Algorithms are done. Okay. This here comes the verification part. Okay. So to verify, you should send the token and the secret, right? Only if you give the secret, it will be able to verify. So if you do this, you will get the data, that payload data, right? All that data you will get. So there are no synchronous and asynchronous way. Okay. Stick with one. Let's try the async part. Okay. Let's try this async part. So JWT dot verify. Okay, this is the token which I got it from the client, right? Token. So what's my secret? You have it in a variable called secret. Simply copy that and paste it. So this is the callback function. So if it is an error, if this object is being present, then means it is an invalid token, right? So what I need to do is same response dot send. Okay. Invalid token. I think now it's 401, I believe. If it's invalid token and all, not authorized. Okay. Yeah. So if it is invalid token, error object will be present. Else I will get the not for. Let us try to print this data. And then if it's validated, what should we call?
Next.
Next. Correct. So before that, since it's an async process, better add a wait keyword here. Or yeah, that would be better. Okay. So you don't want it to run since it's an async process. I'm adding it right it. Okay. So this part is clear. So only again, simple line, verify, give the token, give the secret. Okay. This callback function will be executed after it is being rejected or verified. Okay. So that particular point in time, so you will get the error if it is an invalid token. Let's say token is damaged or tampered, no. So then you will get an error object. So you are sending that it's an invalid token. Else go to next. Okay. Can we go and implement that part? I have the token, previous token itself. Let us go and hit. Token not present. Authorization, same name.
Ma'am, it should be header. It's
Okay.
headers.
Okay. Mhm. Again, the same error. Let's start and stop the server. Okay. Let's go and debug. Let's try to print what is there in header and header or headers. Let's see what's there in header.
Header.
Okay. If I go back. Okay, now invalid token, new error, but let's see what's there. Header is a function, I believe. Okay,
Header.
headers. Okay. Huh. Okay, it's in small case. Okay, so all the naming, right? All the naming is in small case. So this should work. Authorization. Yeah. Now let's try to send it. Again. What is the issue here? Go back.
Man, issue in the node mode.
Node? I don't get it.
Node postman. Sorry.
Postman?
Inside writing JW token, write a bearer. BERER first.
Yeah, bearer first.
I don't get it, guys.
So-
Can you come again?
Ma'am, we have to use bearer space and then the token.
Token,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah. That also, I thought like it will be accepting. Yeah, that I told. Yeah, that bearer and then space, but still, then you will have to split it in space and then get it. But let's see if that is the case. But can you see the token here?
Yes, ma'am.
We still get
Yes,
it, right?
ma'am.
That should not be the case. Still get it. If bearer is something mandatory, it's just a text, it's just a format which we use it. Okay, but if that's the case, this should not be present, right? It's still present in my header object. Sorry, this is headers. Let's try now. Okay, invalid token. Again. Okay, got it. So yeah, bearer is not mandatory. It's just a format where we have bearer and then specify the token. Okay, but here I had only header. Actually, the object is present in headers. Okay, so that was the change. But now if you see here, if the token is not present, if it's not present, it's going to give me token not present error. If it is present, again, I got the value. Okay, token is valid, and then it is returning me the result. Let me go and change this small b to capital B. Okay, now if I go and hit invalid token. Okay, so your only 2 lines, verify and sign, your job is done. Okay, so that's the beauty of all the third-party packages. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so this is the implementation of how to log in and how to verify. Okay, till this part, any doubts? How I am doing the verification? Can we see the decoded data? Can you see this username? Username and the data which is decoded. Let's do one thing. Okay, in the post, I have something called user ID, right? So let us take it as 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me name this user ID at g.com. Okay, let us have it as a email at g.com. Okay, let me copy this same thing. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, these are the, let's say these are the 2 posts that user, let's not have it, this one, same data. Okay, these are the 2 posts that this user has been added. So instead of serving all the posts, okay, let me filter it using this decode. I got this decoded data, right? So in order for me to access this decoded data later in the request, obviously I need to know who is accessing my application later, right? So in the session base, what we did is we simply got it from request.session. Okay, here your JSON web tokens will not do that for you. So after validating, what you need to do is simply add that to your user data, and then add the decoded string. Understood why I am doing here this one? I'm just adding it in user data. So later, let's say I wanted to filter, okay, JSON data dot post dot filter, okay, for each of the posts. Okay, I am going to filter only if the post dot user ID, okay, is equal to request dot user data, right? User data has that username dot user data dot what is the username, right? Username. So ideally it should give only the post which the particular user is logging in, right? So now if I go back and hit get, I have changed the token. This is the one change I made. Okay, can you see only the 2 data is being added? So your JSON, your express session, okay, your express session will do that for you. It will automatically attach that session data in the request. Here you need to attach that data, whatever you got it from the token, right? The decoded value, attach that to your request so that later in your process you can use that data. You can use the user's information. Okay, understood this part? That is all. So now let me share you few, as I told you, I cannot invalidate this one, right? I have set the expiration date to be 1 day, right? So for 1 day, this token will be valid. Okay, your JSON web token will not be able to invalidate this token because it is already sent to the client. Your server has no access to it. Okay, so how will I make the user to be logged out? Okay, that is a important discussion to be made. So far clear? The implementation part, nothing fancy, just sign it when you are logging in, take the token and then verify it. That's all. That's the implementation part you will need to know. Okay, everything is being done. Now I'll tell you where to use when. Okay, few theory parts pending. Okay, we will discuss that because that's very important. First thing first, log out, right? There are multiple workarounds to do that. Okay, the general way is, okay, there must be, okay, okay, one way which I know mostly people do in the server is, let us say a person is like a user. Okay, let's say the has a token. Okay, with the logout URL you will receive the token as well. Okay, you receive the token as well. So you validate it. Yes, he or she, the user is being already logged in, so it is a valid request. Now you wanted to invalidate this token. You cannot do that from your server because that token is already sent to client. Even if you have access to it, you cannot invalidate. So so what you can do is maintain a state. Okay, put all the tokens which are, blacklist kind of a thing. So next, if okay, blacklist kind of a in-memory storage or a database storage, basically do a database storage. Okay, so you put this token inside this blacklist. Think of this as a variable, okay, which is an array of all blacklisted tokens. Okay, so later when the same token comes to me, I will check if this token is present in the, even though it is valid, right? This token is still valid. Let's say one day is not, it has not reached its expiration time. Okay, still it is a valid token. Okay, even though if it is a verified token, your server should go and check if that token is present in this blacklist. Okay, if it is present, simply invalidate. Okay, now you can tell me that is going to be similar to your store, right? Still I'm going to have a database or something like this. Still I'm storing these states like this, the tokens which are invalidated, and then I'm checking what difference it is going to bring. Again, I will get into the scalability issue, right? Let's say there are plenty of users logging in into your application. Okay, and then many users are trying to log out. Okay, even though their tokens are valid, let's say you have set the expiration date to be 1 day, even though their tokens are valid, you need to include all the tokens who are trying to log out in this blacklist, right? A variable or a DB store, right? You need to store these tokens. So, but one thing you will have to know is session data, like session store. Session store contains all the active IDs, right? Like all active users session. In blacklist, you are going to contain only the tokens which are yet to expire, but also the user has logged out, but the user has logged out. Understood the difference here? It's still going to be very minimal. So let's say you store few tokens. Let's say you store 10 tokens. Tomorrow, at least a few of them, like 3 to 5 of them are going to expire, and you can simply discard from this table. Okay, it's still going to be minimal. It's not going to be as same as your session store. It's going to be minimal. Only the active tokens which are yet to expire, but before even before the token is expiring, if the user has logged out, you store only those tokens in the blacklist, and also you keep on clearing them daily so that you don't end up storing expired tokens in your blacklist. So the space required to maintain this state is far less, and it cannot be compared to your store session and all. Understood? I'm going to store the token only when the user is calling logout, not any time. Understood how a workaround is being achieved?
No, ma'am. Can you repeat again?
Not clear? Okay. So as I told, this token is not going to expire for 1 day. Okay. For let's say today at 11 o'clock, I am creating this token. Okay. Tomorrow till 11 o'clock, okay, till 11 p.m. this token is going to be valid. Okay, your server has no access to invalidate this request. So one workaround is, okay, let's say in 12 o'clock now, 12 o'clock I send a logout request. Okay, so what your server can do is simply have a database or a in-memory or database somewhere to store these token. Okay, when you are calling this logout operation, you will get the token as well, right? You will get the token as well. Simply store this token in this database. So this is something called as blacklist. So if any token in this is arriving again, you will simply invalidate that. It's a blacklist kind of a thing. So you put this token on the logout operation, you put this token inside this DB. Okay, that is all you can do. The maximum you can do is to save the token. but this token is still valid, still it has not expired. Tomorrow at 24:11 p.m. only it's going to expire. But at 12 o'clock today, I'm going to call the logout operation. One way to achieve this is to simply save these tokens in a database. So later, let's say at 1 o'clock, right? 1 o'clock, still the token is valid. Okay. But 12 o'clock, I have logged out. Okay. If 1 o'clock, if I try to again use the same token, okay, send again one more request. Let's say I'm asking for users. Okay. And I'm using the same token. Okay. This token is still valid. If you go and ask for the server, it will still validate and then verify it because it has not expired, right? It has not expired. So this token is still valid. But one way your server can identify that this token should not be validated is using this blacklist. So what it will do is, after verifying from JSON Web Token, you can simply go and take all the tokens, right? An array of tokens, all the tokens from your blacklist, and simply check if this token is present in this list. If it is present, simply send a response that it is invalidated. Okay, if it is not present, then it is a valid request. And understood now? So
Yes,
later
ma'am.
what I will do is, after 11 o'clock, like after tomorrow, okay, after it is being expired, I will go and check all the expired tokens here and simply remove them from the list. If it is expired, either way, this is not going to, no, your JSON Web Token is not going to verify it. If it is expired, that's all, right? So after one day, you need not store that in the blacklist. So you can still reduce this number of tokens being stored in this blacklist. Okay. So you can go and simply delete all the expired tokens every now and then. So only the active, that's why I said here, only the tokens which are yet to expire, but the users are logged out. Okay. Only those tokens should be present here. So this is one way to achieve. There are multiple ways that the design is being decided of how to invalidate and all. So this is one way, a simple way where we can achieve the logout operation.
Ma'am, can't like the JSON token is stored in the client side, right?
Yes.
So, on logout, can't I like just delete the token from the like client browser?
Okay, that's another approach. Okay, another approach, but that approach has a thing, right? So let's say client can delete. Yes, client can delete. What will happen if this token someone else has access to? Okay, if some other website in your client, if you are viewing, if that website has is able to go and get the token details of it, can you can communicate between tabs, right? Okay, you can communicate. Let's say some other site has access to this token. Okay, even though the client has removed it, okay, some code from the other tab will still be able to get this token. And what if using that token you are accessing your server? Okay, any method, any approach you do, you need to make sure your server is aware of that. Okay, deleting it only from the client doesn't make sense, right? Deleting also works. Yes, good. The client will not be able to. What if some attackers come to know about this token? Since this token is still valid, if they come to get this token, they can still send the request for users with this same token, right? So what will you do? Like in the server, my JSON Web Token will be still verified, and then you will process the request. But that is not we want. We wanted to store the tokens, whatever it was logged out before expiry. We wanted to store it somewhere. So later, even if it is verified, you just check if it is present in the store and then simply reject the request. Understood? Like very good. Like I didn't think like we'll be coming up with a solution. Very good. That's one approach. That approach, you are still not sure of that approach, right? The client, if someone has access to that token is still valid. My aim is to invalidate that token only and not to hide it from the client. Yes, that is step one, but the most important one is to invalidate this token itself. Understood, Prag?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it's already time out. I will discuss a few scenarios or applications of when to use what. Okay, I have also added a few resources in the reading materials of how to decide which to use. Okay, for banking applications and all, Session is the best one. Okay, have you logged in using Gmail account in any other application? Have you
Yes, ma'am.
seen like in Spotify and all, it will ask use your Facebook account, use your Gmail account?
Yes, ma'am. It's a
Yes.
co-auth, no, ma'am.
Yeah, it's an authentication, but in that kind of a scenario, do you think Google will maintain a session and then that session will be shared with your any third party server which you are using Google's credential with? No, right? So it is based on a token based authentication will be more appropriate in that scenarios. Yes, still that it's not the same JSON web tokens. Okay, as you said, OAuth is being used there, but still it's a token exchange, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So session based authentications and all will not come in handy when your systems are when two different servers are interacting. Okay, session based authentications will not be, but banking and all, you don't interact with third party, right? And you need entire control whenever you are dealing with money related websites. Okay, session based authentication is the most preferred one. Okay, let me add the MCQ. It's already 10:05 and some people will start uh, complaining in the feedback. Yes, I do understand it's difficult after 11. I'm trying max. Yeah. If you people are willing to stay, I'll explain one other thing as well. Okay, I've added MCQ for Baba batch, third MCQ. Third MCQ added for Tata. I'll explain why I told that it is not scalable, right? I told you that session-based authentication systems are not scalable, right? I'll explain you after posting the MCQ and creating the attendance. Added last MCQ for Baba batch. The next topic would be how to create Express projects using Express generator and how to do validations using Express validator. These two are third-party packages which will simplify your job of validating and generating a basic structure of the product, but still you can do your own validations without that third-party library itself. Okay, it is just used for validating simple use cases, like if it is an email or if it is a number, all those simple common validations. If the minimum length is 5, all those common validations, right? You can use Express validator. It is just a go through of these two libraries. Yes, added last MCQ for Tata batch, added attendance, added attendance for both of the batches. Okay, so let me explain one other thing. I told you it's not scalable, right? So what do I mean by that? Okay, whenever you're hosting an application, your one server cannot handle entire load. Okay, if you have application in the scale of Amazon or Facebook or Google or any other big companies where the number of users are high, okay, where the number of hit to your server are high, you cannot, right, you cannot do it with one server. What you will do is have multiple servers, right? Server S1, S2, S3, right? Have a load balancer. I did explain this to Tata batch initially, right? You will have a load balancer. So all the incoming requests, your load, let's say this is R1, R2, R3, okay? Or load balancer. So this load balancer will redirect, let's say it's redirecting your R3 to S1. It will redirect your request based on each load in the each server, right? So this is how your applications are working internally. Everyone agree with me on that? Big applications on a very high level, all your requests will go to load balancer and your load balancer will decide, okay, which server to do this, like which server should I redirect to. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let us say you're implementing session based authentication, right? Inside each of the server, you have a session, right? Store. And here also you have a store. Here also you have a store. Let us say your login request of R1, right, goes to server 2 first time, okay, and it is being stored in the server 2. Your session is being stored in the server 2 for your login. Let's say the same user R1, okay, R1 now comes and asks for /users, okay, or any other API. Okay, now your load balancer, let us say earlier it redirected to S2, right? Let's say it's redirecting to S1 now. Now your R1 request goes to S1. So will this session store have the data of R1? Yes, no?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So it will not be present. So when you are using session based system, right, you cannot maintain individual store for every servers like this. If you really wanted to implement session based authentication based on your use case, the approach would be remove all of these, right? Instead of storing the session store individually for each server, okay, you have a global store, okay, db called, okay, this is my store now. Okay, your S1 will make, in order to check if it is, to get the session data, okay, your every server will make a call to your global store now. Okay, so this is a workaround. Okay, if you use session based store, if you have multiple store servers like this, you cannot have, okay, your load balancer will redirect based on the load to different servers. So you cannot maintain a single store each of the store. You need to maintain a global store and every server will access that store. Okay, now this problem will not be completely there when you are using token based, right? In token based, you don't have the concept of store itself. If the secret key, okay, if all your servers have the secret key, okay, your token will be validated, right? All my server will have the token key. Let me do one thing. Okay, let me copy this copy file and then paste it again. Okay, and copy. Okay, let me run this one at 81. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is cut. Okay, I'm going to run nodemon ./app.js. Okay, let me add another terminal. Now cd day 13. Now if I go and call nodemon ./app. Okay, now I'm running this. One is in 8080 and one is in 8081. Okay, Let me log in. Okay, let us go and log in. I'm going to log in 8080. Okay, 8080 with the user, log in 8080 and then get the token. Okay, the token. Let me go to post call. Okay, go and hit this one. I'm going to hit post call in 8081, a different server, right? A different server, right? A different file, different instance of your server. Right now, if I go to my authorization and give the token whichever I received now, okay. Can you see you are still getting the value even though both are in different servers? That's the point I was trying to demonstrate, right? Like this one. You don't have the concept of store here, right? And token based authentication comes in handy when you are scaling your application to multiple instances of your server. Understood? Any doubts? 9 of you are here.
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Clear? So there's a concept of refresh token and all. If time permits, we will see in any of the extra classes. Okay, because let's say you set the access token expiration date to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay, and your users should not be requested to log in after every 5 minute or 10 minute, right? So you have something called refresh token. Using the refresh token, you can you can generate another access token. Okay, so every time your access token expires, you use the refresh token to generate a new access token. Okay, that's the brief of the overall process of refresh token, but we will see in any one of the classes, extra classes, or yeah.
Hello,
Hello, yes, Subhash.
ma'am. Actually, you have to send a JWT token by the response. Uh, how can I set the header in the response JWT token?
In the Postman, you have the header section, right?
No, 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 not. I'm not using a header. Basically, we are using a web browser.
Mm-hmm.
Have the applications, and we are using set the JW token in the browser.
Yes,
How
yes.
can get?
So you need to call, actually call fetch API, right? You will use fetch API.
Yeah.
So go and browse how to add header data in fetch API. Okay, I'll show you. This is the URL. Yes. Yeah. Can you see here method headers? Okay. You simply give, this is how you set the header in the JS and then send it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So Swapnil, Prague, any doubts?
Yes, ma'am. One doubt.
Yes, Prague.
Like by default, it is like encrypting in hash 256, right, ma'am?
Yes.
So suppose I'm just changing the encryption type. So where I have to give the while checking while verifying, where I have to pass the the encoded form.
No, no, no. You need not pass the algorithm while verifying. That your JSON web token will do. Only when signing, you need to mention the algorithm.
Okay, okay. Can we
Yeah.
see if we change the algorithm?
If we change the algorithm, this is the default one, is it?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
We change the algorithm. Yeah, let me try to hit the same thing. Yeah, this token is valid. So yeah, let's log in. Where did I change first in the first place? I changed it in copy. Okay. Let's hit in 8080 only. 8080. Let's change the algorithm. Hmm. What error? Are you also getting the error?
I haven't checked, ma'am.
No, right? Like that should not be the case. Let's, okay, try to run npm nodemon /app.js. Okay, it's running in 8080. Yeah. Login. TCM no start line. No headers passed. Body correct. App crashed. Okay. Again. We are getting an error in line. Let's give any other algo. Okay, probably that PS alone is not working. Some issue with that in the library itself. If you see here, we are getting it in the sign method, right? But 384 seems to work. And let me copy that one and then hit post. Let's use the same thing. 8080 post authorization headers, paste. That algorithm changing and all, just that the token generated will change, but nothing else change you have.
Yeah, clear, ma'am.
Okay, yeah.
And ma'am, the setting header, it should be in which file?
Setting header, where
Yeah,
am I seeing?
the fetching. We were discussing. Subhas was discussing.
This one is in the client side. From the client, you need to make a request to the API, right? So you need to send the data in the header. So he was asking me like, how do I send it from the browser? So let's say you have a button to fetch the list of all users. Okay, and on click, you will use this method, right? Fetch, to make an API call. We'll do a demo anyhow to do a front end entire full stack project. Okay, in that you will call this /post, right? You need to make it using fetch call, right? Dot fetch method. You will need to use this fetch method and then give the URL. So along with the URL, if you need to give all these additional data, that is method and credentials or the headers part, which we were able to do it using Postman itself, from the client, how will I do it? That is the question he asked. So you should use it within the fetch method.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, by which file do you think like this is from the server or
Yeah, it should be client, the JS.
no? Yes, this is JS file from the client side. Yeah. Swapnil, any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, guys. Good
Good
night.
night.
Yeah, let's
Good
catch
night,
up.
ma'am.
Yeah. Tomorrow. Bye. Night.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night.